Thank you for joining XRO, which is India's first AR/VR focused podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Utsav Mathur, who is the founder and CEO of Geometry. And I was on his LinkedIn page, and his profile says democratizing the metaverse. So I'm looking forward to having a very interesting conversation. So, Utsav, to my listeners who don't know about you, why don't we start with a brief introduction?
This is Utsav. I started out as an architect. I started out as a computational designer, which means I code in order to design. Gives me interesting insight into a few things. I had a couple of patents in the industry, started my first company based off of that. And then Gmetri came along because I was at EAG Barcelona, where I got introduced to a few interesting headsets, which were in the pre-developer mode at that stage. And I think that is where it became really, really interesting. And yes, it's in terms of introducing uh, what Geometry does. Maybe I'm going to just start off a little with a little bit of a question. So some things belong in the past, right? For example, having a pen drive that had your presentation, and then you forgot to bring it to the presentation, or naming your file names final until you get to the last one. These are all things that are they're far behind us. But then you've got the metaverse. The metaverse is the future of the internet itself. The way it's being touted right now, it is an embodied, immersive internet that gives you presence, a virtual world that you can walk around in, interact with other people, places, things, and information in ways that have not been, done until now on the internet. It's the absolute next thing. But the metaverse is still being built like it's 995. People are forgetting their pen drives when they're building the metaverse because the workflows today are surprisingly still offline. And I'm talking about Unity and Unreal over here. Uh, if you would see what Figma did to Adobe, the internet or the Web 2.0 was being built primarily um, on Adobe, right? And nobody thought it was a major problem until Figma comes along and says a really simple thing. What if we made it collaborative? What if we make it, you know, interesting for everybody to just build the internet on the internet because it was browser based, right? And that's what Geometry does. Geometry is a collaborative, browser based game engine that is so simple that even kids can create content, but it's complex enough that 20 of the top Fortune 100 companies are using it for complex internal use cases. And our creation toolkit relies on a sentence-based logical engine. So you can start making sentences and logic starts to appear, paving the path for some amazing use cases on headset-based creation as well. Uh, Once you have built your experience, you can host it anywhere. Offer publishing toolkits and it can run on your website. And of course, we give you really, really good at analytics, which in a sense would allow you to track how people are performing within your metaverse. So that's a quick introduction.
There are so many people who kind of give different um, ideas about what a metaverse is and what a metaverse is going to be in the next few years or decade, and how the benefits that it will open up for consumers and enterprise. What would be your perspective? What do you think is the metaverse? What and how do you think it's going to help consumers and enterprise?
Hype cycles come and go. At that time, the buzzword was XR, right? And it was changing the way that everybody was talking about immersive reality, augmented and virtual reality. It was coming on the web, and with our interest being on the web, people were talking about web XR, right? Which is essentially coming in and now coming or being loosely called as the metaverse. I think we've got to thank Facebook for that rebranding to Meta because it accelerated a lot of things, primarily by educating the consumers about what the metaverse is or potentially could be, right? The metaverse is essentially the future of the internet itself, right? The internet is something that is constantly evolving, and it's been changing the way that we behave in the real world because of all of the value that it brings, right? The pandemic would have been a lot harder had the internet not been where it was, right? Allowing a lot of critical functions to move smoothly just because the internet kept us all connected in interesting ways. So the internet has evolved, but of course, screens are two-dimensional, right? So we were essentially, the internet was a symptom of taking, when it was born, paper to screens, right? So it's called a web page for that reason, because before that everything was done on paper, and it essentially now is on a screen and online and in front of you, so in a connected way. And now it's the evolution from web pages to web experiences, right? So you browse the internet, but you live the metaverse. And the difference is that it is embodied, it can be collaborative, it is a space, and it is more natural. There's a part of our brain that actually is called spatial intelligence, or spatial cognition is the cognitive ability. And what it does is, when I am in the real world, I am sipping a cup of coffee, I can just pick the coffee mug up without really having a look at it, because my brain understands the space around me automatically and without me really thinking a lot. This is something that gets lost without having three-dimensional context. If you ask somebody from one generation above us to make a payment on a banking app, the series of pushes that they're doing on their phone are actually very randomized. Just blank the screen out. The number of clicks here, there. It's actually, we become fast and good at it because we've been trained to do it. But it's something that we had to train ourselves to do it, whether as kids or not. So of course these skills grow and these come out. But if one of the avenues that opens out is if more spatial cognition gets applied, a lot of tasks become more natural and easier, like they're in the real world. And that's one of the advantages. A lot of people say advanced technologies should be solving problems, adding value. I think what this does is it brings the entire interface of interacting closer to what it is in the real world, right? So more natural interactions would actually come in when you're browsing on the internet, which is not the case right now. We've got a rather interesting set of ways to interact with two-dimensionality. So bringing three-dimensionality is one of the essential parts of the internet. Whether or not these hype cycles exist, when we started out, we were confused as to what to call our space in, because the metaverse didn't exist as a space at that time. We would go into meetings and people saying, "Hey, what are you building for?" We would say, "We're building the three-dimensional internet," and they would look at us like, and people don't really, at that time don't get it. But everything changed when Facebook rebranded to Meta. So a big thanks to them, because they defined the industry name. Now their industry reports the metaverse industry will grow by this percent. So it's good because they're educating the industry. They're giving everybody a name to call these things by, and that helps, right? I don't think that these walled gardens, these walled courts, as they're so frequently called, Decentraland, Roblox, Horizon Worlds, these are essentially communities, right? Communities, in order to participate in any of the activities you've got to do, you've got to be a part of these communities. If you're not on Decentraland, you cannot enjoy the content on Decentraland. If you don't have a Roblox account, or if you don't have the app, you would not be able to go there. That is uh, the metaverse isn't about that, right? So, which is why when you create an experience on our platform, we don't ask you to buy virtual land, which should be limitless, shouldn't it? Or we don't ask you to kind of do anything. It's something that you can put on your own website, and somebody randomly browsing the internet, even without intent of browsing a metaverse, could find it on your webpage. So it's a really interesting thing that way. It's the future of the internet itself. All web pages will evolve to web experiences. Saying Facebook is the metaverse, saying Horizon Worlds is the metaverse, is a little bit like saying Facebook is the internet, right? So it's.
There's always been, like, a few companies which has been running the entire internet, if I might say, but at this point in time, we are uh, we're going to be possibly the next evolution, iteration of internet is going to take us from being trapped by the 2D interface to the 3D world. And I think in almost all my podcasts, whoever I've been having conversation with, I've been stressing on that evolution, which is what was to happen. And with this metaverse and the meta rebranding as Facebook, I think everybody's got to know the importance of the transition of from the 2D to the 3D world. And I think you put it very nicely. From web pages, we'll be moving into web experiences. Where we'll be actually be able to experience how we experience in a physical world, because bringing that experience into a digital world, that will create the metaverse, which will be as seamless as the physical world. And then the opportunities that metaverse, the digital world, will open up will be really, really humongous. You were mentioning that geometry is uh, a no code platform, web browser based, and you also mentioned that Unity and Unreal, I mean, makes it a little difficult, and you guys have simplified it, making it really, really simple for anybody, even the ones who don't understand what metaverse is, you're making it as simpler for them also. Elaborate a little bit more about on that. Elaborate on more on the platform that you built. uh, where did the idea come from? How long it took you guys to build the platform? How resource and financially intensive was it to build the platform? But basically just evolve, elaborate on geometry.
So Geometry is, in a sense, the what Figma did to Adobe, and I think I said this before. What Figma did to Adobe, Geometry is doing to Unity or Unreal. Our content creation tools, right? We have built what is the lightest, simplest platform that is entirely on your browser to build in a collaborative way. So all of us could enter this virtual space and start to build content. These content creation tools are sentence-based. The logic engine is sentence-based, so you can make sentences, and these sentences will define what happens within this entire world. When we started building this entire toolkit, it was very important for me that we stay no code and not low code, right? A very important part of making sure that that anybody is able to kind of come in is making sure that their cycle or their journey with understanding this is not frustrating. And for the target audience that we're looking at, which is bringing in designers or people who are engaged in other modes or other verticals of business to be able to leverage the metaverse, it was very important that they don't have to pick up specialized skill sets. If you Google, how do I learn building the metaverse today? Probably some of the first few results are going to come up, learn Unity, right? That's where you're going to land up. You say, how do I learn Unity? You get a lesson plan. Lesson 1, basics of Unity. Lesson 2, learn C#. It's always the case. You've got to pick up C# in order to do anything. This is where you lose the audience that we target to. What we say is, it's really simple because everybody is good at programming, and it's important to understand the difference between programming and coding. Programming is basically putting logical sets together. I want, when somebody clicks this on my app, I want this to happen. Oh, I might also want to capture that data point. And it's something that everybody can naturally do. And for me, it was very important that anybody who knows what they want should be able to build it very, very quickly. In terms of content creation time, it was important for me to bring this down to 5% of what it takes on any of these other engines. So which is where we are. We're currently, anybody creating content on Geometry takes 5% of the time that they would take to build a similar experience in Unity or Unreal, and giving them the entire infrastructure around it, analytics, and everything in a matter of minutes, right? So all of that stuff was definitely, it was I think the most difficult thing in this journey was to be able to say no, right? We said no to a lot of revenue. We started this company in 2017 when the XR hype cycle was at an all-time high. We started working with enterprises, and we started going out there and working very, very solidly towards addressing a lot of enterprise use cases that were, and that was because we wanted to add value, right? There was a lot of money to be made because a lot of companies had budgets coming in from marketing departments saying, if I have a cool video of people wearing a headset with my brand logo in the background, wouldn't that be cool? It projects me as a brand of the future, and I would love that for my YouTube channel to do well. And they would come to us with these briefs where they had no idea what they were talking about. And, it's just like VR, AR, VR, AR, XR. And there was a lot of money on the table. And I think one of the things that it took a lot of hygiene to do was to say no. Uh, we never delivered stuff which was only meant to be short term, or there was a really strong inclination towards projects that would take that would be that wouldn't be one off and repeat, that essentially were adding value. And this is why we started, and enterprises started to see this, that okay, there's somebody who's actually able to give me a KPI that's not YouTube links. And that is something that I think was very important for these large brands. We started working with Bosch, we started working with Accenture, where all of their onboarding is today done on our platform. We started working with PayPal. We started working with uh, I think now we have over 50 to 100 clients, but three of the top five major banks in India have their metaverses or digital twins of their spaces on our platform. We've done work that has created digital twins of factories or factories or stores at Reliance Retail, and that value was really important for us to add. So the platform was so simple that all of these solutions could be created on it. And initially, as we were developing it, we were creating a lot of content internally using the platform, but we never had the development team deliver to a client. We said the development team will do whatever it takes to bring the platform up to the expectations of this brief that the design team has received from the client. So it was, I would say, a solid year and a half of doing just this with really strong hygiene. Say no to whatever the development team can give to make a quick buck, and enhance the product so that it can start to answer or rise to the expectations of the clients. And over several such iterations, Gmetri has become what it's become today. And we're integrated with Shopify and WooCommerce. If you want to create a storefront for Shopify WooCommerce, it'll take you all of use one of our templates. It'll take you all of 20 minutes to set up your shoppable Shopify virtual store where you can call in people, you can speak with them, you can interact with avatars, and you can host on your website. So those that I think it took a lot of hygiene to say no, and that was one of the most important parts of the journey.
Your architectural creativity background has, and that thinking has been applied in the product that you have built, where uh, you have built a product which is extremely uh, accessible for everyone. And I think that's the only way to go about democratizing a technology which is in such a nascent stage. Like you mentioned, because of the hype, there are so many stuff, these big brands who've got the money to throw away, and they would want it to be projected as someone who's like future forward, by just pasting their pictures behind. But I really hope that brands starts moving away from just that just trying to be seen as somebody who's like future first, to being committed and invested in the space by doing R&D. And because this is the future, we, like you mentioned, we are building the next evolution of the internet. And the internet itself is a $1 trillion multi-billion dollar business opportunity, and all this is going to transition onto the metaverse and web 3.0, and the opportunities is going to open up. It's going to be humongous. You mentioned that there's 50 to 100 clients who are already using your solutions, 3 to 5 banks which is onboarded your software and leveraging it. Would you like to talk about some of the use cases? You mentioned about Accenture, doing the onboarding, leveraging your platform. Would you like to talk about some further use cases, and maybe also throw in the price points? What's the price points?
Absolutely, and to your point, right? So some of the all of the brands actually are the only way to win them over is by providing them value, right? No one's gonna come in and help you out as a technology if you don't offer something very solid in return, right? And what we do is we deliver something really solid in return. For some of our retail clients, we've taken conversions to 5 times, and this is something that I'm talking about multi-million-dollar enterprises. in their core categories. We've put up retail stores that have taken people's average time spent within that up by a factor of 8 to 12 times, and directly increasing the conversion rates by 5 times because they understand that better. This is, imagine entering a virtual store. This is what we call an e-commerce metaverse. You would be able to walk inside, you would be able to see the products. There are virtual salespeople. If you want a real salesperson, you can call for one like you would do in a store. And the value is also something that roots itself in the basics of retail design itself. If you go to a store, right, and you're standing at one point, you can see thousands of products. But if you were to browse on an app, it'll take you a lot of time to scroll 75 or 80 products. We did this, we did this grocery store for a really major brand. I think it was big, for Big Basket, right? And it was a 360 panorama. And you could look around at 75 fruits and vegetables in one swipe, right? So it's just like looking around. But imagine showing you 75 on a two-dimensional regular interface like Amazon would have, or when any of these things would have. So see more, buy more is one of the age-old retail principles. If you see something, you're like, oh, it's leading into something called product discovery, which is very difficult to crack on a two-dimensional screen because you're asking people to scroll, right? Scrolling gives you less ROI on the effort that it takes to get to that page. But at 360, you see so much more. So with you can show a lot more, often to a factor of 20 times compared to a traditional thing in the same time spent by the user, and without increasing the cognitive load, right? Without that person feeling, oh, I'm done scrolling, which is and there's solid research to support this. And that's true value we're adding for retail. It's product discovery. It's also better interactivity with products and depth of information. Because we control so nicely what you want to know about a product. If you're if you're an expert, so in the US, we've got over 50 car dealerships using our platform to sell cars. And cars are, somebody wants to just see the brand and the make, and they pretty much made their decision. But some people want to know, hey, these headlamps, right, in the previous version of the car to this one. So if you want to go to that level of detail, our platform or these interfaces allow you to, because you can click and you can, go deeper and deeper and deeper within the same space without, really changing everybody else's user experience. And that is a brilliant thing that we've been able to kind of unlock, right? You can summon this virtual person who can stand and tell you and have a solid discussion with you about headlamps, right? So those things are really changing the way we're shopping, and this is true value. So we ask our clients to come to us not because of anything, but because we can increase top line revenue, period. If you were to look at the other use cases that we have on our platform, one is employee experience metaverses. Right from when somebody wants to understand about a company, which is a part of the recruitment process, to when they're getting onboarded to the company, where they would have to understand the internal workings of a company, the different teams and how they work with each other, the rules and regulations to it. This is onboarding. To basically having internal employee events. We do this through virtual worlds. So PayPal has a metaverse called the Pavilion, which is on Gmetri, which is something that people would be able to, their employees would be able to walk around in, would be able to, interact with each other on, go to virtual events on, and everything is so simple that it can be accessed from their existing infrastructure, which really changes the way that they consume it. And we do these or similar solutions for Accenture, Bosch, those several banks as well. We do it again, several clients. Onboarding is really one of the things that we've done consistently for Amazon as well. The other is digital twins, right, or digital twin metaverses. Let's take an example. One of our clients is Myntra, which is a subsidiary of Walmart. And again, so what happens with these, with a lot of their infrastructure is a lot of people know about the infrastructure, but don't really get a chance to see it. In your mind that Myntra has warehouses, obviously. What do they look like? I don't think we'll ever get to see a chance of the scale of these solutions. As probably somebody out there who doesn't know a lot, who doesn't care a lot about it, it's okay. But as an employee, they face the same problem, right? So we're creating digital twins, and this is also true for larger companies. We're talking about Unilever as well, right? So basically, there are a lot of these companies for who create their digital twins on our platform. Um, what do these digital twins look like? You can walk into with one click on a mobile phone, laptop, desktop, or headset, walk into a virtual world that looks like the actual factory. Other people who've done the same are in the same space with you. You can hear them, see them, they can emote, you can chat. You can walk up to any machine, you can click on the machine, and you can get the live operating status that has been fed into the platform. Uh, Maybe if you want to do training or learn how the machine works or indulge in a full-fledged training program, it's available based on if you're eligible for doing that training. And all in all, it becomes a really good dashboard even for the CXOs to kind of come in, or the leaders to come in and see what's really happening in this particular facility, right? And when I bring this use case across, a lot of people say, "Oh, that must take months to build." This is a pre-build on Gmetri that takes exactly, I don't know, 2 or 3 days to take live, right? So these are the reasons that we've been able to, go value first, right? I'm not talking about this technology. The metaverse is opens a lot of doors to provide value. It's redefining interactions. It's redefining the way we're consuming information. And only if that was, and we're just trying to apply it to everyday business and provide value right off of the gate. And which is what brought us to really prestigious projects as well, like HS2 or High Speed 2, which is Europe's largest infrastructure project at the moment. And it's essentially a Transrail project that's really big. They're building thousands and thousands of kilometers of rail track, of tunnels, of a lot of infrastructure. It's ongoing now. It's supposed to end in 2040, right? It's a huge project. They're using Gmetri to collaborate because a lot of people cannot be at specific points on that. Somebody points an issue out on this particular spot. There is three-dimensional data on our platform, or there can be live 360 captures from a 360 camera where everybody can come in, start to speak with each other, start to, pinpoint or leave tags on where they see the problems, and collaborate in real time. And reports get automatically sent out saying that this is how that comment was resolved. It's like Google Docs, but more at that particular place. So you've got all those features that you'll see over there. I think this industry is going to be only driven by value, right? And that's true for any technology. Every technology promises value, which is what makes it so interesting and powerful. We think we're starting to really provide that to our clients, and they're starting to see this value in dollars, which is I think very important.
Utsav, supposing I'm a small enterprise, I'm a retail store, and I want to set up something in geometry. I'm a grocery store, so there's a wide range of inventories. How does the process work? Does the are the assets all ready? So I'm someone who doesn't understand code at all. How do I set the grocery store on a platform? What's the pricing model? You didn't touched upon that. And what's the analytics that you provide?
Yes. So primarily, Gmetri works in two models, right? The first is we're truly going out to content creators out there and asking them to create their own content, including, like you said, probably the small grocery store owner. A lot of designers use our platform, and we've recently launched licenses at $24 a month or $44 a month, depending on the number of views you get. And our free tier is also very generous. So you would be able to come in and start to just build these things at really low price points. That's what the small mom and pop grocery store needs to pay, for sure. This is what their process would look like. They would capture 360 panoramas from their store, right? This can be done by going to the Gmetri marketplace and asking for a 360 photographer who would charge you, $5,000, 5,000 rupees to do this, or you can use your phone to get a panorama. They're not perfect, but can get you somewhere. we always recommend getting the 360 camera, or you can buy a 360 camera actually, which is getting 17,000 rupees. Not so bad, is it? So get a 360 photograph and put it on the Gmetri platform. Alternatively, if you have an iPhone, you can scan your store and create a 3D. This process will take you 20-25 minutes if you've got what I believe is an average size mom and pop grocery store in India, and you would be able to take that 3D model to Gmetri. Your call, right? 360 photographs are easy. Scanning might take somebody a little more specialized. On Gmetri, you can import this with one click, right? So you have the environment, and once you have the environment, all you need to do is click publish and share the link with everybody, right? If you already have an online storefront, we've got WooCommerce and Shopify integrations. For India specifically, we're looking very closely at ONDC and the value that it brings. A lot of people will start managing inventory over there. So that's something that we're linking very soon. But let's say you've got a Shopify or WooCommerce store, you can do that. Otherwise, I would just enable collaboration and start sending that link over to everyone. And I would be present in my virtual store, and I would put that on my web page. Everybody gets this web page, momandpopgrocerystore.com, and everybody's coming over there. Whoever wants to shop is now walking inside my store. You can create multiple panoramic points and join them, and people are just walking around that store while you are present and while your audio is on. You can have that conversation with them, and you'll see each other walking around, and they'll be like, oh, I want this, this, this. Maybe you set up a process. You say, just drop a comment, on whatever you like. I'll have it shipped over later. Don't wait for me. I'm busy with this other customer answering their questions. That's how easy it is, right? The rest of the things are in. Of course, you can go and start doing advanced things. Maybe I want to add a clickable when I'm clicking this particular aisle or shelf. I get a pop-up that tells me, that product information. That's an element called product card, and you can add it yourself step by step or link it from what you already have on Shopify, WooCommerce, or hopefully very soon ONDC. And that's how easy it is. Honestly, getting started is really simple. If you're somebody who's selling something and you don't have a physical retail store, affiliate marketing, there are a lot of use cases for it. You can just use one of our virtual store templates, which comes with a lot of shelf space. And you can just click on the product, replace the image, and you're good. These are really good looking stores. And you can be present. You can see everybody who's coming in, and like a real store, say hi, kick people who are not buying, do all of that stuff, right? So it's really simple. When enterprises engage with us on the pricing point, that is something that is obviously a lot higher, because they're looking at signing contracts, and there's a lot of paperwork that goes in, and a lot of sales time. So if you're not signing off of the using a credit card on any of our licenses, you are automatically an enterprise customer. And based on the number of employees you have, your spend on Gmetri would range anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 per month to $20,000 to $30,000, depending really on the scale of your company and the application that you're building.
Supposing if it's a big retail store, how many concurrent users can be there online, and will this be it's a browser based? Does it run on mobile? Does it run on headsets? And is there a limit on users? Do if I come in as an avatar, does that work?
So it works everywhere, right? Headset, mobile phone. You can just work on any mobile browser, right? So you'll click a link, you're in. No, and our average loading times are 5 to 7 seconds. So you click the link, 7 seconds, you're in the virtual store. Yes, you will have an avatar. We standardize the avatars for every project because of exactly what you said, concurrency. I might have 100 people in a room. If 100 people have 100 avatars, assuming that a good avatar is, let's say, half an MB or 500 KB, right? You're still downloading 500 KB every time somebody enters. If it's 100 people with 100 different avatars, it is different. We don't have an app where we have an avatar builder that makes it really simple to do this, because we're choosing to be on the browser, which is why our avatars look similar, but it can have your thumbnail of your photo, or very soon your video feed as well. So you can actually be walking around as your real you, as you are at that moment. So concurrency is something that you can define in terms of what you think the bandwidth would be of your consumers. In certain use cases where I know that people are going to have good upload and download speeds, which is primarily if I'm looking to build something enterprise. We can often, in certain scenarios, run with the assumption that internet speeds would be higher. And in that case, you can aim for a concurrency that's that's as high as 50 or 100, or and again, you can define this limit while you're building the experience. You would be able to come in and say, for every I'm going to allow 50 people in this room, but when number 51 comes in, they would be having an experience that is not collaborative. They can experience the space in single player mode, and as soon as somebody drops, they will be admitted into the room. So you can set these limits that allow you to optimize for how it is. At Gmetri, we don't impose a limit from our end. You can bring in the world if you want to. The servers are going to be okay. That's not a worry. It's only about how many of these upload and download interactions everybody's having to resolve. And we're working on these algorithms to make it easier and easier. But you can always create multiple rooms, and the number of people you can concurrently have on a single player experience is technically infinite. So you can always do those things.
We are laying the building blocks of the Web 3.0, the next evolution of the internet. And in the course of the conversation, you were mentioning how if it's only been run by maybe like a Google or a Microsoft or a Facebook, nothing would change. This would be the same thing. All the problems that we have with the social media or the web, it's going to get completely translated into the Web 3.0. I don't think that'll be cool. And I don't think the Gen Z, the millennials are looking forward for that. They're looking forward for this open, decentralized, interoperable metaverse. What are your views on that? Is it something that we will get through, or it will just be a re-centralization of sorts? Because Scott Galloway says that this decentralization is nothing but re-centralization, and it always be in the hands of the investors.
You are absolutely correct. So interoperability, as much as everybody likes to talk about this buzzword, will remain to be and is a myth right now in the metaverse, because like I said before, it's all about communities, right? And it's really surprising that the metrics that these metaverses still go by and what they are boasting about and flaunting are DAUs, or daily active users. The reason their DAUs are so important for them are, of course, for investors, which I totally understand, but also for basically making sure that this is the community that consumes projects that have been built on our platform. These are walled gardens. These are never is Horizon Worlds going to say, I'm going to allow an easy transition of my captive audience to Roblox, right? So you can go and be a part of that community, and you don't want those leaks to happen, right? In your daily active users, which is a primary metric that's defining them. Business logic would not allow them a leak in their DAUs, which is why interoperability between these walled gardens is a myth. But the true metaverse, or the way that the internet should evolve, doesn't come from these, right? These are just communities which will always exist, by the way, and they're good because everyone needs communities to exist for a variety of reasons. But as the internet evolves, it's going to be a push from the other direction, right? Which is, I have a website. A web page today is one of the it's everyone has a website, right? However good or bad the organization is, they have a website. And the reason that they have a website is, of course, people can block access to it, but it exists. And it is because that is your way of putting your individual, group, or whatever opinion out there in a defined set of ways that you could, right? So the internet is something where anybody is allowed to post a web page, and that evolution of web pages to the metaverse, or the internet growing into the metaverse, is what is going to be far more decentralized. You're absolutely right in saying that re-centralization, if we start by going to what are these touted metaverses built by the large companies, we will not find ourselves in that true dream of that. But the interesting thing is the internet always has and will continue to evolve from the ground up. And that is the part of the cycle that we hope to be. We're not selling anyone expensive virtual land to come and be a part of our community. You have a web page, that is a web address. Uh, One thing that's true is the current internet is at least interoperable in the sense that it has the interoperability standards that people are now starting to use heavily. Yes, they're still controlled by a few people. Uh, Many of them are still, but often there's so many different ways of working across these, which are truly, which are things that we should that are evolving, or things or lessons that we should take from Web 2.0 and build into Web 3.0. And I think those things are starting to slowly shift, and hopefully in our shift that's also going to come out. Uh, it's also about the entire revolution of having toolkits that really open or widen the base of access to a technology. And I think access to technology is something that we don't talk about as much as we should. The reason the top tech companies are based out of the geographies that they're based out of is because people there had greater access to early technology. Uh, the reason that the companies are valued at what they are is because they had early access to minds who understood what they were trying to build. Uh, and this, for a really long time, has been put behind a lot of these barriers of learning, which I think has drastically changed since the last iteration of the internet being built and formalized. Uh, we don't have that limitation of access to information anymore, and that is where let's look at building a website in the year 2000 or 995, right? I mean, in 2000, building a website was like hiring a development team and getting them to put together a complex set of code, because you needed to know how to code, and those people were very limited back in 1995. So you have to pay a bomb to kind of get there. But along come platforms like WordPress, right? And what WordPress does is it says that, you know what, you want to build a website, go right ahead, use my tool, do it, right? And now I think the number stands at 75%, 76% of the internet is actually built on tools like WordPress. Uh, and that's huge. They're automated platforms that allow you to put together things really shortly. They democratize the metaverse. They took the control from those select few and gave to everyone. Build, make your presence felt. They're democratizing the internet, and that's what we're hoping to be a part of as well. We're saying that, look, and you don't need to learn these complex tools or need to know how to code in order to build this three-dimensional internet. All you need is knowing what you want and just put it together on our platform really simply. That's why my LinkedIn banner says democratizing the metaverse. That we're trying. But yes, it's going to be a really interesting way to see how all of this evolves.
I guess if it pans out that way, the way you're saying it, uh, the world will, I mean, move towards a very better place, because yes, the problem with technology, like you mentioned, it's not equitable, I mean, and yeah, though right now, because of Web 2.0, the access to knowledge is creating that shift. So I'm exciting I'm really excited for the future. My last question to you, Utsav. There are a lot of students and entrepreneurs, who are sitting over there, the hungry hearts, who want to know what the metaverse is, the Web 3.0, how it's going to help them. What would be your advice to them? Where should they start? And your roadmap of geometry?
There was a gold rush before that made a lot of millionaires and billionaires of the time. There was the internet that, when it came along, created the millionaires and billionaires and trillionaires that we see around us now. The metaverse is the next big opportunity. There was a really big term at that time, offline to online, right? The retail stores were offline and now they went online, right? And a lot of things that we used to do in the real world came to the current iteration of Web 2.0 through a process. And the companies that enabled this process made a lot of money. So the same problem statement exists today. Anything that exists on Web 2.0 can be brought to Web 3.0. So pick something, pick anything, this iteration of the internet adds value for, you could name literally any industry, and we could list 20 points why this is so valuable for somebody, for a business in that vertical, right? So take something and take it to the metaverse, right? There, where we saw metaversity, which is saying education came to the internet. It's not enough. Education needs to come to the metaverse, right? So education came from schools to the internet, now from internet to the metaverse. Interesting statement. You can go out and build that. Already we're seeing core use cases, but you could literally pick up any vertical, right? And just try to bring that to the metaverse. There's no dearth of ideas out there. Pick one problem and bring it from Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. Of course, if you use Gmetri, that'll be amazing to help you along the way. Yes.
Lovely, Utsav. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. I have not tried a platform. Looking forward to try a platform. Wish you the very best. It sounds super awesome, and I hope that this startup, which kind of started from here in India, makes a big noise, because I think we've always complained about that India is not producing good, valuable startups, which is global. I think you're doing something really cool, and you're exploring the conversation in such a nascent stage of the 2D 3D conversion, and the best part is that you're making it really easier and accessible for everyone. I hope that Geometry is the platform which really makes the impact and is the platform for the creator economy. So thank you for being part of the podcast. Wish you the very best. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. And until next time, see you guys for that. Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks for having me.